joining us on the show now to speak on the nation's human rights abuse triggered by ill leadership and the imperative of getting it right going forward is the former president, the Committee of Defense of Human Rights, that's CDHR, Mr. Supo Ojo. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's good to have you on the show.
Nice to be here, too.
So, many of us have complained about human rights abuses. I mean, I think somebody was talking about in doing the paper review how they are harassed by the police and even normal citizens harassing those people working with them. You know, poor leadership, selection of leaders, where we elect leaders who end up harassing and abusing our human rights. As a people, even as a Nigerian, I feel emotionally abused by somebody. I totally feel abused by the utterances and the way they see or speak to us condescendingly sometimes. So, as somebody who projects human rights, as a people, how do we choose the right leader? We begin to think of the right leaders.
Unfortunately, choosing the right leadership in Nigeria is not as simple or straightforward again. I even want to say it has been taken away from the Nigerian people by the Nigerian Constitution, which has saddled that responsibility with the political parties. So me and you, we may not have any role to play, any say. We may influence, we may beg and say, please, so help us choose this kind of people. Why those in charge of the parties will determine who the leader will be. And that's what we have been experiencing all along. You see, the Constitution, if you don't belong to any of the political parties, you cannot be a leader. Only the parties can come up with candidates. Only the candidates put forward by parties can contest for positions in Nigeria. There's no room for independent candidacy. And we have been clamoring for that for a very long time. Allow people to join parties, allow others who don't want to join parties to also partake in leadership selection process. So at the end of the day, majority of Nigerians have been disenfranchised. You understand? That's why nowadays when people go to vote, look at the total number of those who voted for the winners vis-a-vis the population. Then you know that what we are running is not really a democracy. But beyond that, even let's face the reality now. The political parties, maybe what we can do is to let them know that, look, we are not satisfied with your leadership selection process. And we want you to up your game. We want leaders who will be human. We want leaders who will not turn around to abuse us.
So, but I'll come to you, BC, but aside from leaders, you know, yes, we have, when we talk about leaders in our head, we're thinking the political leaders.
Yes.
But I'm even talking about a chief abusing his driver.
Yes.
You know, those are human rights. Can the driver come to maybe the organization or to, how does that driver find help with this society that we live in, where everybody is harassing everybody?
Yeah, no, it is possible. The first thing is knowledge, education. Is that driver aware his right is being abused? If he's not aware, he will take it and tell God and say, God will help me, you know? So education matters. That's why we have been clamoring human rights education should be taken to the schools. Let all the students know what their rights are, so that even if teachers abuse their rights, they know what to do. They know where to lodge complaints and to obtain redress for it. Let it be part of our culture.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need.
About culture, sir, Mr. Ojo, because for me, when we started this conversation, that's where I just went. We have a culture where we have a group of people who are the leaders, who should be revered, and they can tell or do anything without you, and you're not meant to question. Questioning it means you have no home training, you have no, you know, you are not a well-brought-up person. And now we have a situation where we're talking of Western democracy, where we are picking these things and making it now part of our culture. First, do we not have to deal with culturally how we see each other and how we relate with each other before we now start institutionalizing it and putting it, you know, as a system?
I think unfortunately, we have gone beyond that.
Okay.
Now, culture is also being determined by your legal system. You know, we tend to overlook this. At times, the legal system you operate has a way of conditioning you and shaping you, straitjacketing you. This is how we want you to behave. This is how we want you to do things, and so on. And even the political system, we do also do that. When we import political system without trying to infuse into it our own cultural values, at the end of the day, we end up losing our culture because we want to internationalize. We want the international best practice.
Yes.
And then we lose our own identity. And at times, we also find ourselves in a situation where we are merged. Like the Nigerian nation, for instance. We have different nationalities with different culture put together within a map. And we want to evolve a national culture. When I hear the Nigerian culture, immediately I say, there's no Nigerian culture. But you have cultures in Nigeria of different people.
How does this work, really?
Yes.
Because in the histories of England, they had various small ethnic groups pick up what they call their common laws. And eventually they formed what is their norms and general laws.
Beautiful.
But they did not allow us our own.
Yes, that is
because
it.
colonization came. And now we're at a spot where, how do we do this here now?
Yeah.
How do we collectively pick what is normal between us without their guide?
Yes.
You know, their standards that they use to remove some of our cultures as being arbitrary, and get to that common general practice that is accepted to all.
I think that is the point we have. We have, I think, really, it ought to have happened long ago. Long before now. Unless we say it's not too late. We can always start from somewhere. Because most of the problems we are having today is because of the failure to address what we have just identified. Yes. We are afraid to allow people to sit down, to negotiate, and to agree, and say, this thing is common to us. Okay, put it there. I used to say, you have Section 33 of the Constitution, which is all Nigerians are entitled to right to life. Yes. But what value does a culture attach to human life? Exactly. That will determine how that right
will be carried out.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, you cannot compel everybody. Nigerian Constitution now compels everybody to say you have a right to life. But the Constitution is not talking about the values, about it. You understand? So we need, the point we have gotten now, I think what we need is the right leadership.
Right, right.
If we have the right leadership, who knows all these things we are talking about, who has the competence,
right. Yeah.
You know,
okay,
and knowledge necessary to be able to tackle all this.
Let me go on a quick break, because there's so many angles we still want to retouch on this. Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing the issue of leadership and human rights abuse. BC had a question for the break. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So you talked about us finding the right leadership. Yes. And I am worried because I don't know if we have to just skip to leadership when we have not sorted ourselves as followers. Are we the right followers? A few days ago, I was in the car heading home, and a car was in front of me. Somebody just finished eating a plate of rice, this mama put with nylon and everything, and flung it outside the window. I wished I had koboko. I would have blocked the person and we would fight. I felt very irritated because I said, this is what we say every day. How do we get to a point where we get the right leaders when we ourselves are not working towards being the right followers? Is that ever going to be possible?
I think you have resolved it. There can't be a follower without a leader. The follower is following somebody. So there must be a leader before you can have followers. You know, leadership matters in everything, even in the family, at the family level. If the head of the family is not responsible, the family is in trouble. So what we need is the right leader. There was a time here where people don't usually pay their tax freely. But there was a time a leader came and started working and said, this is your tax in action, working for you. And people saw it. People voluntarily started going to the tax office and say, yes, we want to pay. That's leadership. And I think that is what is lacking in Nigeria. Some of the problems we have been identifying are there leaders who are prepared to tackle them frontally. And we have those leaders, not that we don't have, but we have just identified that our system does not throw up such leaders. In fact, what they do is to repel such leaders. So I think we should begin to target the political parties to say, hello, if you don't give us also kind of leaders, we will not vote for you. I think it's high time we have to begin to put the parties under intense pressure.
But Nigerians are tempted. I always say to 2015, we are tempted.
Yes.
We wanted change and we thought we could get it. And we looked for parties that, you know, we thought would have the same agenda. And they sold us what we wanted to hear.
Yes.
They got into power. Is it not the education of the mind that we need to do now? And it's not, this is not going to be a 4-year plan and will prepare us for elections. That's where the problem is. So we need to change the forms of values that we have. Some of our cultures are not serving us anymore. You talked about the value of life, and immediately I remembered the Diya system in the in Islam, and how they valued life, and how they translated it into their laws, and how we always leave it for God, Asikoto, you know, here. So for somebody to now arrive at what we can call a general standard that will ensure that justice is done if a life is taken, we need to really start an education system. If a leader comes in today and tells us, I have everything, is it not that quality of education that we think we need, that we should be looking at for that, in that leader?
I think yes, I agree with you, the quality of education of that leader matters.
Not the BSc,
not the BSc thing. It must be somebody who has leadership qualities. It must be competent. Competence matters so much. It must be educated, you know, formally and informally. He should know the history of his own people. He should know the culture, the antecedents. And when you are going to govern a country like Nigeria, you must know the history of the different nationalities. You must be able to identify them, and you must be a strategist to be able to balance those cultural expectations together. And so that when you are dispensing power and authority, you know that you can't dispense the same to all of them.
How do we test for all these criteria?
It is up to the political parties. No, that's why there must be people there. It's unfortunate that we cannot really trust those political parties to do this for us. But it is high time we demand it of them. Or we amend that constitution and allow independent candidates.
So, Mr. Ojo, it's easy, I think, to be able to point out to the person that has this experience here and does this. But there was a time that integrity was also put on the ballot paper, and we're asked to vote for that.
Yes.
But how do you test integrity if you don't have to, when it's not in play? Just being told about integrity does not necessarily turn out.
Yes,
the way
it's a pity. You see, in politics, people are generally under the influence of propaganda. When you say integrity, they will narrow it down, condition your mind. Integrity is also about not being corrupt. Any abuse of power is part of corruption. Look at the antecedent of this person. For instance, somebody who has participated in a coup, who has overthrown a government, is corrupt. He has no integrity. Because if you have integrity, you will not participate in such a thing that will destroy society. If you can build, you will not destroy. That's it.
I like that.
You understand? And if you find somewhere where destruction has taken place, then you must be a builder.
Well, many will say that many countries had to go through some kind of destruction before they started rebuilding to find the pieces. Because there are those brave heroes of the past that overthrew governments. So sometimes you need a bit of destruction.
Yes, I think we have had enough destruction in Nigeria. I think it's high time now we need leaders who can build. Who can build the minds of the people. You can't build the minds of others if your mind yourself is not clear. If your mind is genderized, you won't be able to build others' mind. So we need leaders who are competent, who can look problems in the face and say this is a solution. If they should also know that the same solution may not apply to everybody within the same country. I mean,
this is one man or one woman we're talking about.
We need that. We need such a person.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we're going to be wrapping up on this very soon, but I think there's a role the judiciary also plays in all of this, because I think since the insurrection that happened in the U.S., we realized that madness is not an African thing. We are all mad in one way or the other. Somehow, anybody can go crazy and pull down something. But I think it's the rule of law, the judicial system that helps to protect our rights That's that arm of government is our last resort to ensure that no matter what level we are in, we can actually find solace, that the judicial system of our country would back us up. And that right now is, a lot of Nigerians feel that they cannot totally rely, especially on the length of time it takes to resolve one case. So isn't that a function of an abuse in itself? That I can't depend on the judicial system because I've been abused. I'm a citizen and I want to go to court. You know, and either the police extorts money from me, or the judicial system extorts money from me, and I still don't have solace. So I'm being abused across board.
Yeah, I think I will just give you 2 points on that. First is that the rule of law, the judiciary determines based on the law existing in that country. They don't determine based on morality, their personal morality or culture or feelings. They have to look at what the law says. And the highest law in the land is the Constitution. So where you don't get your Constitution correct, where the Constitution does not reflect the wishes, the agreement of the people, then there will be a problem. I used to say even our Constitution does not even recognize our existence.
Ew.
Yes. You won't find the list of the tribes, the nationalities in Nigeria. You won't find them in the Constitution. It's a deliberate dilution to say that you don't exist. You only belong to local governments created by the military. You belong to states created by the military. So we need a constitution that we first identify, recognize that
we exist.
Okay, these are the Nigerians. When we say Nigerian, we refer to the Edo, the Efik, the Nupe, the Ijaw. List all of them. They say we are 300, 400. List it. After all, the constitution listed 774 local governments. If you can, why can't you list 400 nationalities?
Wow.
So that's the take-off point. And if we're able to do that, we evolve our constitution, then judiciary, we only work on the basis of what the people have agreed upon. That's the starting, that's the foundation. If we don't get that foundation correctly, we just keep on managing one problem or the other and beating about the bush. And now the rule of law reflects all this. So it talks about human rights dependent on your law. If your constitution does not recognize your human rights, or it recognizes it with one hand and takes away with the other. Look at the current problem we are having over revenue allocation. When did Nigerians sit down to agree that this is how VAT should be shared? It was never agreed upon. That's why we have problems.
Interesting. We have to wrap up on it, but I think...
So we need a leader who can lead in that process, leader who knows what the rule of law means.
We're talking about restructuring in so many ways, and we're back now to the issue of constitutional review in different ways, in the phase of human rights. I mean, the revenue allocation, resource control, so many things.
You see, the National Assembly cannot review the Constitution. It's the people. The National Assembly is a product of this same military constitution. So they cannot.
They are representatives.
Because the military constitution says they should represent you, not your consent.
Wow. Okay, we have to wrap up on that. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I think it was a good conversation on this, and I think we were able to highlight some important things on that. So constitution is very key in defending the human rights of Nigerians. Recognize us first. Let's even know that we exist so we can start talking about human rights.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.